What happens when one of the most protected strategic zones in the world is suddenly reached? In just a matter of hours, projectiles landed near one of Israel's most sensitive research areas, a place long considered untouchable. Some defensive systems were bypassed, raising serious global concern. And for the first time in this phase, the balance of the situation seemed to shift. But this isn't just about one location. This moment is part of a much larger chain of events, stretching across multiple regions, involving global powers and reshaping the entire situation in real time. So what exactly happened, and why does it matter so much right now?
Over the past few weeks, the situation in the region has intensified rapidly. What began as targeted actions on infrastructure has now evolved into something far more complex. Responses are no longer limited to general sites. They are now reaching areas with deep strategic importance. At the same time, more regions are becoming involved, directly or indirectly. From neighboring territories to global players, the situation is expanding beyond its original scope. Now, this is based on publicly available information and is presented here purely for educational awareness. In this video, we'll break down what happened near one of Israel's most sensitive locations, why this marks a new phase, and how this situation could shape what comes next. Let's start with the key event that changed the tone of this situation. Reports confirmed that projectiles landed in southern Israel, including areas around Dimona and nearby regions. One of these impacts occurred close to a nuclear research-related facility, a location that has long been considered highly sensitive. Now, it's important to clarify something here. There is no confirmed damage to the nuclear facility itself. International monitoring agencies reported no abnormal radiation levels, and no direct impact on the core infrastructure was detected. However, even without a direct hit, the significance of this event is enormous. Dimona is not just another city. It is closely associated with Israel's long-standing research programs and is often viewed as a symbol of strategic capability. Because of this, any activity near this area immediately draws global attention. The concern is not only about what happened, but what could have happened. When projectiles land near such sensitive infrastructure, the risks increase. Even a small miscalculation, technical failure, or unintended outcome could have far-reaching consequences. That's why international organizations quickly called for restraint and emphasized the importance of avoiding operations near such locations. So the key takeaway here is clear. Even without direct damage, the proximity alone has shifted how this situation is being viewed globally. It has introduced a new level of sensitivity, one that goes beyond typical infrastructure concerns. Now let's look at what this event represents in a broader sense. Earlier in this situation, most actions were focused on general infrastructure, facilities, systems, and operational sites. But now there is a noticeable shift. The focus is moving toward high-value, symbolic, and strategically significant locations. This change is important because it suggests that decisions are no longer just about immediate impact. They are also about messaging. The selection of targets appears calculated. It is not random. It reflects intent, signaling, and positioning. Reaching areas near highly sensitive zones sends a message, not just to one country, but to the entire international community. Another key factor is the performance of defensive systems. Some projectiles were not intercepted. This has raised questions about gaps, limitations, or evolving tactics. And when even a small number of projectiles reach their intended areas, it changes perception, because perception plays a major role in geopolitical situations. It influences confidence, strategy, and future decisions. So what we are seeing here is not just a physical development, it is a psychological shift. A shift in how capabilities are viewed. a shift in how responses are calculated, and a shift in how the situation may evolve from here. But this situation doesn't stop at one country or one event. It is now expanding across multiple regions. There have been developments involving neighboring areas, including Lebanon, as well as ongoing tensions in other nearby regions. This creates multiple fronts, all connected in different ways. And when multiple areas become active at the same time, complexity increases. At the same time, the global layer is becoming more visible. There are reports of increased alerts around international bases and strategic locations. Different countries are monitoring the situation closely, adjusting their positions, and preparing for possible outcomes. This shows that the situation is no longer limited to a single geographic space. It is becoming interconnected. One event influences another, one region affects another, and decisions made in one place can have ripple effects across the world. This interconnected nature makes the situation more unpredictable. Because when multiple factors are in play, outcomes become harder to anticipate. And that's exactly what we are seeing now, a shift from a contained situation to a broader, multi-layered scenario. Now let's look at how this situation is affecting the world beyond the region. One of the biggest concerns right now is the Strait of Hormuz. This is one of the most important energy routes in the world. A large portion of global oil supply passes through this narrow passage. Any disruption here can have immediate global effects. And that's exactly what markets are reacting to. Energy prices have shown signs of increase. Global markets, especially in Europe and Asia, are becoming more cautious. Countries are also taking steps to secure their energy supplies. At the same time, diplomatic activity has increased. Different nations are calling for restraint and de-escalation. There are ongoing communications aimed at preventing the situation from expanding further. This shows that the impact is no longer regional, it is global. Economic systems, energy flows, and international stability are all connected to what is happening here. And when such connections are affected, the entire world feels the impact. So, what does all of this mean? The events near Dimona mark a new and highly sensitive phase. Strategic locations are now directly involved. The situation is becoming more complex, more interconnected, and more difficult to predict. At the same time, there is no clear turning point yet. All sides remain active. Pressure continues to build, both regionally and globally. But beyond strategy, beyond analysis, there is also a human side to all of this. Behind every siren, there are families. Behind every alert, there is uncertainty. And behind every decision, there are real lives affected. Now, this content is based on publicly available information and is presented for educational and analytical purposes only. Because in the end, the real question is not who is ahead, but how long this phase will continue and what comes next.